John, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just wanted to start with a safety moment, actually, which is an experience I had walking here as I was coming across Westminster Bridge, enjoying the sunshine alongside hundreds of others. And the number of people that are actually walking whilst sort of staring at smartphones is actually quite astounding. But there was one particular one that stuck in my mind because just before he was about to walk into me, I just happened to notice that he was wearing a lapel pin, which was an IOSH lapel pin. And I guess, for those of you who don't know IOSH, that's Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. And I guess it just is a reminder to all of us that we need to practice what we preach. So I thought I'd share that with you this morning. Okay, this is my third one of these conferences. And I guess I was, at the first one, I remember saying we expected to be starting construction in 2013. 4 years after setting the business up. Now, of course, a lot's happened in that period, not least the Fukushima accident, which obviously changed a number of things. But I mean, does that mean we failed in any way? And my answer to that is a very clear no, not at all. And there are sort of probably two reflections I'd have to sort of support that. The first is, we have to remind ourselves that what we're doing is really, really important. Okay, it's really important to the fabric of society in building secure, reliable, low-carbon electricity generation for generations to come, and that we have to keep that front of mind. And if you check, as I do fairly regularly, on the sort of balance of generation in the UK, it's consistently between 20 and 25%. Okay, and we have to replace that with the program that we have in front of us. So it's really, really important, and that particular aspect is forefront in Horizon's vision. And the second reflection is it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. These projects are immensely complex, as we all know. There are many, many stakeholders ranging from government through to local communities, supply chain, etc. And the investment requirements are huge. And so we have to just there has the degree of sort of balance our enthusiasm and optimism for the program with a sense of patience and realism, because we have to get it right and we have to deliver this successfully. The sort of, as John alluded to, the business environment is increasingly positive, and we clearly have we've enjoyed strong political support over the last few years. Clearly, that's reinforced now through the Conservative Party manifesto earlier this year. We've also seen the framework to support new nuclear be fully embedded, and we've seen the first project at Hinkley Point having got through all of the framework with its key consents, its agreements with government on the key commercial agreements, and through the state aid challenged by the EU Commission. So there's still a way to go, but it's nevertheless, I think that demonstrates that the framework is in place and delivering. So the key thing now is to build on that. What I just wanted to do, this is a sort of a slightly different picture of one we've shown before, but Horizon's mission is to build a new leading UK nuclear utility, deploying the advanced boiling water reactor technology at our two sites at Wylfa and Albury. And the point here is we have Horizon sort of developing projects, and we're creating project companies, which I'll come on to, which the first one being Wylfa Newydd. And our key supplier or delivery partner is Hitachi G, as we've described before. And this model is quite important, that this actually is a sustainable model that we can extend to other sites, which is hence showing Projects 3, Projects 4 on that slide. So we're very, very clear what we're doing. We're very, very clear what our mission is. Our sole focus at the moment, well, close to sole focus at the moment, is successful delivery of Wylfa Newydd to get that through financial close and into operation in the first half of the 2020s. To deliver this, we have three key programs of work. We have a whole package of work to do on what we call business development, which is creating the investable project. So that's the way we structure the project, the way we secure the commercial agreements that underpin that. The second element is actually building the organisation that's going to own and operate the power stations. And then the third element is actually building the power station itself. And I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on each of those, just to give you an update on where we are. Growing the organisation. Many of you will know we were originally set up by E.ON and RWE back in 2009. They sold the business in 2012 to Hitachi, and at that time we had just over 80 people in the business. That's grown now to just over 300. So it's a substantial increase, and we will continue that growth. And you can see the graph there is showing the steady growth we anticipate over the coming years. And sitting behind that, clearly we're growing the team both at our Gloucester headquarters, but also increasingly on site at Wylfa. Alongside that, Hitachi is growing its delivery team that's going to deliver the power station for us, and that's progressing well. We have a new chairman, Ishizuka-san, joined us from Japan in April, which is bringing increased energy to the program. We've also established relationships with INPO in the US and WANO, really to sort of help us with the development of the organisation. And we're increasingly looking not just at immediate recruitment, but also the further down the pipeline with planning for an apprenticeship scheme next year, and we started our graduate scheme this year. So there's a lot to do, but we're making good progress in building the organisation. In terms of the site work, so Wylfa specifically, since April 2013, we've been running front-end engineering design work with Hitachi, and that's sort of supporting both the engineering design activities as well as supporting the consenting work. Generic design assessment, we're in step 3 at the moment. We anticipate transitioning into step 4 later this year. Clearly, it's a challenging and detailed process, but we are where we expect to be at this point in time. On the construction side, we're in the final stages of completing our design of the delivery team structure and the key partners that will form that team. Last year, we undertook our first stage public consultation, and we start the second phase towards the end of this year, which will be much more detailed. And also, last year we had a large program of ground investigations, the largest one in Europe actually, and I'm very pleased to say we actually won Project of the Year award with our contractors for that work, but that's with Atkins and Structural Soils. And this year we'll be doing further ground investigation work, both onshore and offshore for the cooling water structures. Key priorities going forward. The plan is to conclude generic design assessment by the end of 2017. That was the date we set at the start of the process, and that's what we are working towards. Development consent order, we scheduled to make our application beginning of 2017, and with a view to securing that by 2018. A nuclear site license, the schedule is to submit the application next year, with a view to securing that also by 2018. So the key thing is we're looking to get all of the key permits, agreements in place by mid-18, so that we can then move forward with the final financing work to achieve financial close in 2019. Clearly, as I said, very, very complex projects. Can't do it on our own, not pretending we can. And we have a very, very extensive, working with a extensive range of stakeholders, starting with the local community, clearly. They're our hosts. So we have working with the Energy Island programme on Anglesey, which brings together all of the local stakeholders. Isle of Anglesey County Council, both in support mode, but also obviously in the determining the planning applications. Welsh Government, and of course UK Government in the form of Treasury, BIS and DEC. And maybe getting those three to work together is possibly one of our bigger challenges. We have, and also then of course the supply chain. And so far on the project we've already spent around £80 million with the UK supply chain, including a substantial amount of that locally. We've done a lot of work supporting the Nuclear Industry Council on the supply chain development activities. And there are many, many opportunities ahead of us. Key issue will be making sure we're able to deliver to time, cost and quality, and that's going to be a key theme. On the skills side, we talked about skills a lot. We all know there's a massive need to grow the skills pipeline, not just for the programme, but also to replace the existing employees. We have a memorandum of understanding with Bangor University, and also we're supporting an apprenticeship scheme with Coleg Menai, which is a local vocational college. And as I mentioned earlier, graduate placements. And we will continue to expand that activity as we start to build the operations team for the power station. So to conclude, I mean, as I said at the start, it is a long journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and we will therefore we'll have difficult moments. We'll hit barriers that we'll have to overcome. And this is even truer when we have 3 large projects all running on very similar timescales, because that puts clearly additional pressures on, particularly supply chain, to make sure we have successful delivery. So we need to work together on some of those issues to make sure that we can deliver the programme in its entirety. As I mentioned at the start, and I'm sure Paul will expand on this, progress on Hinkley has shown that the policy regulatory framework supports new build. Not there yet, but perilously close. And from our side, we've continued to make strong progress both in growing the organisation and in developing the Wylfa Newydd projects, and we have substantial momentum behind all of the activities we're involved in. Key issue for us is we're using proven technology. You can go and have a look at an ABWR. It's been built, it's been operational, and we have operating experience that we can draw on, which we believe is important in terms of the risk profile of the project going forward. We have a lot more to do in terms of working particularly with stakeholders as we enter into the permitting phase. I talked about second stage of public consultation later this year, the licence application next year, and so we will continue to build up that activity. But as I said at the start, it's very easy to get sort of to focus on the challenges and the difficulties and all the things that need to be done, but we mustn't forget why we're doing it, which, as I said at the start, is about bringing secure energy to the UK, secure low-carbon energy to the UK to support a sustainable economic development for the country. And we're determined to play our full part in that process. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Really interesting to hear about Horizon's plans. I just want to talk about the generic design assessment, because you mentioned there it's been challenging. What have the main challenges been?
I think probably the key one is actually translating. I mean, the technology has been approved in Japan and by the US regulators, but the key thing is translating that into a language and documentation that the UK regulator would understand. And that has been quite a challenge for us, and in some cases, it's taken us longer than we'd hoped to achieve that. But so our main focus is making sure we are expressing the arguments clearly in a way that the regulator understands and can support, so that we can get through the process. We haven't found anything. There's nothing actually sort of to do with the design of the plant itself. It's more to do with how we make the safety case.
So it's the regulators not understanding the language, essentially.
Not so much the regulators not understanding, but it's actually because of the different type of regulation we have in the UK, is how we make that how we explain the safety aspects of the plant in a clear way.
Yeah. Now the supply chain will obviously be keen to hear about how they can get involved in the project. Have you got any idea yet when Hitachi will be, announcing the EPC contracts?
Yeah. I mean, this is a sort of a very current piece of work, and we're close to concluding what we want to do. So I would hope within the next sort of month or two we'd be able to say something about where we are, particularly with the tier one partners. Because it is important that we conclude that so we can then move forward with the rest of the supply chain development activities.
Okay, well, let's open this out to the audience then. Is there anybody who would like to ask a question to Alan about this? Yes, gentleman there. We'll get, if you could stand up as well, and we'll get a microphone to you so we can all have a good look at you too.
Thank you very much. Roger Murray from Fuel Cycle Week. Just a little question on GDA for Alan. Raymant, the regulator has flagged up an issue with chemicals, etc., with ABWR. Is that something you were anticipating, or is it something that's going to be resolvable fairly easily, do you think?
Okay, this is to do with the source term. So this is the sort of radiation spectrum that's particularly associated with the cooling systems. The issue we have is it's not a design issue. It's again, it comes back to what I was, as in my answer to Steph, is around how we make the case, and we have not yet satisfied the regulator that we've made the as low as reasonably practical case. So we have agreed a resolution plan, and we will work through that resolution plan to address those issues.
So you're confident that that will be signed off?
Yeah.
Is anybody else who'd like to ask a question? Just want to check I'm not missing any hands. Just another question for me then around, when you're doing a project as big as this and with such a long lead time, what are the main challenges for you?
Right. Okay. I mean, I guess probably key one. I mean, there are many, but let me just sort of highlight one. I think sort of construction risk is clearly a big issue. These are major projects, very, very complex, requiring input from a wide range of people, and they are technically very complex. They're very demanding for the supply chain to actually meet the standards required. So I think how we manage that is critical, because it also is a key focus for investors in terms of how that risk will be managed, how they can be certain that the project will be delivered on time and to cost. So our response to that is twofold, really. First off, we are building a technology, as I said, that's been built, so we have the track record that we can build upon. So our challenge is how we translate that experience from a Japanese business environment to the UK and do that successfully. And as well as then sort of explaining that and working with the supply chain here, so they understand those techniques and can deploy them effectively. And it's also about making sure that we do our homework up front. So we have to do the engineering work in the phase we're in at the moment, and not sort of still be engineering the design once we've already started building. So there's many lessons we can draw on from the projects across the around the world, including our own experience in Japan, to sort of minimise the risks or manage the risks as best we can.
And you mentioned there about skills as well, and you've made quite a lot of, there's been a real recruitment drive over the last year, including some senior appointments. Would you say you're at full strength now?
We've got one or two additional roles we're looking to fill over the next few months. But yeah, we're sort of a lot of our focus last year was particularly in the technical area, getting this sort of highly skilled and experienced engineers that we need to really both to build the sustainable organisation, but also to support the design and engineering work. So that's been a particular focus. That will continue this year. As I say, we have got one or two sort of senior hires just to complete as well, and then we'll we'll be at full strength.
Yeah, the skills gap is something I talk a lot about at the moment. Every sector is suffering the same problem. Are you confident that you're doing enough to make sure you're getting the right people through? You mentioned the apprenticeship programme.
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, I think one of the difficulties is it's actually quite a long way off for us. So operation is sort of, roundabout terms, 10 years away. So it's getting the balance right. When's the right time to start and really sort of scale up. But if you're just thinking about the operations team, we have to recruit around about roughly 1,000 people, and they're going to have to be based locally. So we have to start that process now of filling the pipeline for building that team. So for example, they'll need to be in post I don't know, before commissioning starts, then they've got to be trained. And when you work back from that, we haven't actually got that long. And of course, many of those operators are actually going to be in school at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Are you going into schools and things? Because obviously that's the prime place to get them excited about it now.
Absolutely, no. So we've recently hired an education officer, and that's her job is to generate interest in the local schools, particularly into STEM, but then also to understand nuclear, because nuclear doesn't form part of the school curriculum. It tends to be very, very renewables focused. So, we have some important work to do there.
And we've obviously talked about this regulation side of things, but what about the political, how closely are you working with the Welsh Government on the project?
Yeah, very closely. I mean, I talked on the slide about Energy Island, that brings together not just the stakeholders on the island itself, but also does embrace Welsh Government. So we have and Welsh Government themselves have set up something they call Team Nuclear, which is designed to make sure that we are addressing all of the issues that need to be addressed to deliver the project successfully, and actually that we capture the benefits that the project can bring to Wales and to the local region.
Yeah. Any final questions, Alan? Yes, lady over there. We'll just get a microphone to you. If you can just stand up for us. Thank you.
Janet Wood from New Power magazine. You spoke briefly about the financial structuring for the project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and whether you expect it to be an enduring structure or one that evolves, and if so, how over the construction phase?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're structuring the project so that we can take advantage of the support measures that the government have put in place, in particular the guarantee scheme. So we are looking to bring in investors and sort of debt finance as well. But in terms of the detailed structure, we haven't sort of decided yet exactly how to do that or how that might emerge over the lifetime of the project.
Any final questions? No. Alan, thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
Let's give Alan a round of applause.
Thank you.